everybody. Good morning to all of you watching from wherever you may be watching from. Welcome to Emily and I's new abode, a nice little corner in our dining room where you will see the koan that Emily and I have been living with for the better part of 2 months. It's right behind me. It's Seek the Snail. There was a real estate agent, which is ironic because here we are sitting in a house that we bought, who I don't know if they were real or if they were a robot. I kept on getting automated messages from this number constantly asking me if I was in the market to buy a house, and we were, but I didn't know who this person's number was, and we were already working with the wonderful Darcy McMurray, and so I sent this really weird long text back to this number that was maybe an operator or maybe a person. It's strange that it's so hard to know these things in this day and age. And I, on the spot, kind of came up with a fable of a snail called Silas. And Silas searched high and low and wide and far for a place to call his home. But he realized one day that home is just a construct. It's so ridiculous. It was dumb. But then at the end, the person, because it turns out it was a person, responded back and said, "Oh, what a great story about Silas the snail. Are you in the market to buy a house?" And I told them, "Thanks, we already had somebody." But then I finished the conversation by saying, "Remember, seek the snail." And so now Emily and I have had on our letterboard sign for the better part of a few months this phrase, "seek the snail," and I have no idea what it means. But for those of you who are familiar, you will know, and for those of you who aren't familiar, you will now know that what a koan is a koan. I believe it comes from the Taoist tradition where a teacher will give a student a phrase. And the whole point is that you're not supposed to know exactly what the phrase means, but you're supposed to sit with the phrase for however long it takes, and then kind of like a nut or a pistachio, one day it cracks. And you're like, oh my God, that's what this has meant the whole time. So if all of you are in the market for a koan, feel free to adopt this one of Seek the Snail into your life. It has worked for us. So yeah. That was one of the first things that, of course, had to go up in the new home. But here we are, everybody. We're week 3 of 3 of talking through who Branches is and who we're going to be going forward. And I'm excited about today. It is the essence or the practical or the manifestation of all of this, this word that we're talking about, action, today. Some context. You may hear in the background a little bit of barking from Oliver. Sorry, it's just the reality. He's a dog. He's out back. He's doing his thing. Hopefully he keeps calm, but that's always a reality. So yeah, but thanks for tuning in. I'm excited to journey with all of you. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time for a while, Branches, we've been kind of diving into who we're going to be going forward. And, you know, the world is asking that self-its question existentially right now. And there are so many uncertainties, and it seems like one thing after the next. The President of the United States right now has coronavirus, and there's all sorts of complications with who that person is. But, you know, there's also the sympathy for him being a human being and him suffering right now, and also just with the tensions of an election season. It feels like uncertainty just keeps on popping up in new and unfamiliar and wild forms, and we're all just taking this wild ride. And in the midst of that, we have been discerning, what does it look like to be a spiritual community within this context? What does it look like to be seeking spirit or divinity or Christ or whatever name you give for it in a time of uncertainty? And, you know, for a while, it may have seemed like we were kind of sitting on the back burner, and we were, because we were all trying to discern what does this look like. But speaking from my own point of view, I'm really excited about where Branches is headed, and I think these 3 words are really going to provide a good framework for what that looks like. You can be expecting lots of prompts for all of you to be engaging in on a personal sense, and then also maybe in little collective pods or socially distanced gatherings, but all of that will be revealed in the coming weeks. But all that to say, the three words we've been focusing on, because these are three words that are going to define our practice as we move forward, are story, wonder, and action. And those three words are housed within a new vision statement, which is, we, meaning branches, seek to embody the themes and messages of Jesus, which affirm all people through the mystery of the universal Christ, inherent within all things. May look like I'm reading a teleprompter. My computer is right there. Full disclosure. So let me read this again. We branches seek to embody the themes and messages of Jesus, which affirm all people through the mystery of the universal Christ, inherent within all things. And we do that through three words. Story, empowering wonder, which is empowering us toward action. And so last week, we talked about wonder and how wonder is based in this concept or this stance of curious questions, of being curious and asking curious questions, of letting our questions be something that are rooted in a sense of curiosity or wonder or a desire to unfold or unfurl or expand. Because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but my questions often are rooted from a place of opinion. They are statements guised as questions. And if we're to truly uncover and discover the infinity of Christ and how Christ is existent within all things, this mystery of Christ, we should be aligning ourselves with the themes and the messages of Jesus. And Jesus' themes and messages are ones that are always seeking out conversation. And we talked about how Jesus' methodology of using parables is a way to engage in conversation. He is using storytelling as a way to compel people towards curiosity, towards wonder, rather than prescription. And the week before last, we talked about stories and how there's a story in everything, and how if we are alert with our tender nets, as Brian Doyle says, we can witness the infinity of stories in our midst, and how every story, from the stories of unjust systems within our society to the stories of something as simple as the baby squirrel sitting at the base of the tree that Oliver and I just saw on a walk, all of these stories are revealing little bits and characteristics of either how we are lacking recognizing the Christ within reality, or how we are seeing and witnessing the Christ in our reality. So we look for story, and as we find story, we allow that to compel us towards curious question asking. Why are the systems this way? Why am I so moved by the sight of a baby squirrel? And all of that ideally leads us to what we're talking about today, which is this idea of action. I know that I am guilty, and some of you may relate to this, to being somebody who loves to be curious about the world, who loves to ask questions about it, but when the rubber meets the road, I'm not always the best at manifesting the practices that exist within my mind. And that's hard. As a creative person, self-prescribed, but people have also been kind to say that about me as well. One thing that I have a difficult time with is taking things that I witness and feel and see and letting them manifest in the world. And I think if we look at the themes and the messages of Christ, one of the most beautiful things to witness is the manifestation of a practice that is all about equity-based inclusion, all about tearing down unjust systems, all about witnessing the flowers and the birds and naming it, but spending time with the flowers and the birds to even be able to name them as well. There's a certain level of practice or action that's rooted in the life of Jesus. And if we are to tap into the mystery of the universal Christ within our midst, we too must also be compelled toward action. And these three words of story, wonder, and action are kind of like this whirlpool that are constantly playing on each other. And it doesn't necessarily mean that story always needs to empower wonder and wonder always needs to empower action. Sometimes those things can be jumbled, but they exist in a beautiful synthesis. I have written down here that the point of Jesus' life and message was never about acceptance. And I think this is a bit of the distinction of where Branches is trying to head. If you're anything like me, you grew up within the context of a religious Christian system. Some of you may not have grown up Christian at all, or some of you may have a different experience, but mine was one of, you are lacking something, and in order for you to be truly fulfilled, you need to accept something to fill that lack, which for me, in my context, was you need to accept Jesus into your heart. That was language that was given to me from a very young age. The problem with that is that it existed within a Western society, a Western context for Christianity or Christ, and it is incredibly capitalistic in nature, if we think about it objectively. You lack, so consume. That's all capitalism is built off of too. You lack this, so buy this, and you will be satisfied. It's all about consumption. And so we took that same philosophy and we applied it towards Jesus. You accept this into your heart, and that'll be the ticket. That's your golden ticket to I don't want to say necessarily a life well lived. Not all manifestations of this philosophy or prosperity gospel, but in a sense it is saying, if you accept this, you will have something that you were missing that you needed. And we could get really into the weeds of deconstructing that, but as one of my favorite quotes says, any old donkey can tear down a barn. It takes a special donkey to build one. So what I want to present today is what Branches is seeking to replace acceptance with. And what we are seeking to replace acceptance with, and what we're hoping that the witness of story and the curious question asking leads to in our action, is not simple acceptance, but this waking up to the reality of manifestation, that we act because we are now the manifestation of this Christ reality. We've witnessed it in the stories. We've let it expand in our mind through the wonder. And now through our action, we are the literal manifestation of the divine in the world. And that's where humanity is so key, and where it's so sad how much we've messed it up with climate change and how poorly we've taken care of the earth. Because we're the one, we have this ability to act and to manifest the divine and to be conscious of the fact that we're doing so. I mean, all things, I believe, are a reflection of Christ, so all things can do this. But humans, we have the consciousness to know this, and we're just goofing around, screwing it up. So what action is based in is this idea that we are actually the manifestation of the Christ in the world. And when we truly accept, to use that language, that we're the manifestation, our actions, each one of them are songs. They're soaring. And to truly own the fact that you are the hands and the feet of the divine in your midst, that changes the game so much. Of course you want to plant the garden in your front yard. Of course you want to march in the Black Lives Matter march. Of course you want to advocate for LGBTQ plus affirmation. Because it's not about praying or hoping for something else to do those things. It's about us trusting that whatever that spirit, mystery, flow, Christ thing is wanting us to be the ones to be doing it in tandem and in partnership with that flow or with that reality. Action is a waking up to the fact that we need you, that we need your voice, that we need all of us to do our part, because it's not about some chef in the sky baking the pie for us. It's about us gathering the pie and putting the ingredients together and manifesting the pie in the world. So many of us, myself included, grew up with this idea that it's eventually, like the divine or spiritual practice is something that's handed down to us. But the distinction is, it's not that we need to have Christ placed onto us. It's recognizing and waking up to the fact that Christ has been within us this whole time and has been desperately trying to be birthed forth through what we manifest in the world, through our actions. This is, again, Richard Rohr is just so good. This is a quote from him where he says, God's first idea was to become manifest, to pour out divine infinite love into finite visible forms. Listen to that. God's first idea was to become manifest, to pour out divine infinite love into finite visible forms. The Big Bang is now our scientific name for that first idea, and Christ is our Christian theological name. Both are about love and beauty exploding outward in all directions. Creation is indeed the body of God. All action housed in creation is a manifestation of God. And human beings are conscious of that action. And we've also been ones who've created unjust systems. So in our action, trying to right the situation back to equity and inclusion and holistic union and shalom meaning nothing missing, nothing broken. In doing that, we are manifesting and being the body of God. Rohr continues, in Jesus, this eternal omnipresence had a precise, concrete, and personal referent. God's presence became more obvious and believable in the world. The formless took on form in someone we could hear, see, and touch, 1 John 1, making God easier to love. So this can be an abstract concept, kind of like we were talking about. It's a cloud. It's beautiful. It's mystical. But then Jesus comes along and it's like, oh, of course the divine exists within. Because look at what this man is doing. Look at what he's saying. Look at the practice that he's inviting us into. Jesus comes to show us the formless taking form in a way that we can hear, see, and touch. In a way that's not just idea, but it's flesh, which has been the reality the whole time. And then Rohr continues on to say, but it seems we so fell in love with this personal interface in Jesus that we forgot about the eternal Christ, the body of God, which is all of creation, which is really the first Bible. We need a balance of both. We need to recognize the tangible divine within Jesus in order to remember that the tangible or intangible, infinite divine is existent within all things, which includes you, and it includes me, and it includes snails, and it includes everything. It's not one or the other, but it's recognizing these things in tandem, because in recognizing it in Jesus, we recognize it in all things, and in seeing it in all things, it becomes obvious in Jesus. And then Rohr caps it all off by saying, when we believe in Jesus Christ, we're believing in something much bigger than the historical incarnation that we call Jesus. Jesus is the visible map, the entire sweep of the meaning of the Anointed One, the Christ, includes us and includes all of creation since the beginning of time. That's crazy. It's such a difference than saying, do you accept this into your heart? And I don't mean to poke fun. There are some good things that can come from that, but there's so much more going on here. It's us. It's all of us. It's everything. And to witness story and to be enthralled by wonder and to then take action because you've come to know this about yourself. That is the body of Christ. Jesus says, you will go on to do far greater things than me. Paul uses the metaphor of all of you are the hands and feet of Christ. That's the real thing. And you can call it Christ, you can call it spirit, you can call it divinity, you can call it, honestly, humanism in a lot of cases, taking advocacy and standing into the reality that you have inherent value and worth and potential, and so does that person, and so does this person. But what it is waking up to the reality that all of this matters, because all of it's Christ. And me as a conscious human being, I have the ability to not only see that, but to make sure others can, and to make sure that we care for and reflect the things that we have minimized the reality of the Christ within. That is such a beautiful gift and work that we all have the ability to be a part of. And I hope that we can give ourselves to it. And with the future of where Branches is heading, these 3 words are defining and helping steer this course so that we can witness the story, so that it can compel us towards wonder through our curious questions, and so that we can take action. And I hope that all of those things exist within the realm of recognizing and owning the fact that we are the manifestation of the divine. And so is this thing, and so is that thing, and so is that. And we have the unique and beautiful gift as human beings to be advocates for the places that we have not allowed that to shine in the way in which it was intended. This is going to be fun, I think. We're going to have prompts and activities that we can all do separately together that are trying to birth this notion into the world, that are trying to help people, you and I, and anybody and everybody, recognize their inherent potential and worth. I'm thrilled, and I hope you are too, and I hope you feel empowered by all of this and see just what a gift it can be. And I hope you wake up to this reality within yourself. And I hope it creates a whole new resonance and meaning to the life of Jesus, to recognize that it's a blueprint towards manifestation for you. It's not just something you have to accept. And there are beautiful things that come from an acceptance language. But I think to really wake up to us being the manifestation, that's a game changer. Because, like I said earlier, of course we want to plant the garden now. Of course we want to march now. Because it's not about somebody else or something else doing it. It's about us owning and waking up to our own assets, our own story, our own gifts, and bringing that to the world through who we naturally are. Let's pray, or talk, or speak, or just provide a outward statement of what we desire from within. Dear divinity, within me, within all of the friends and people watching, within everything, within Oliver's bark, within Oliver, within the blades of grass he's trampling on, awaken us to the story that's being told. Let it compel us towards wondrous questioning, and let that all be rooted in an action based in us waking up to the fact that we are alive and divine because we are. Thank you for this unique and special and beautiful opportunity. And to everybody else, to all of you, I hope you can feel this, and I hope it's resonant, because it changes everything, really. I think it does. And I hope you'll join us at 5 p.m. today. We're having a town hall meeting to kind of discuss and go over the formalities of changing the bylaws and the Constitution to reflect these ideas. We'd love your input. We'd love you to join us for that. There'll be a Zoom meeting at 5. We'll make sure to post a link. There's a link posted yesterday evening for that as well, which, full disclosure, telling you at the end, it is yesterday evening. This is pre-recorded. Crazy. I'm probably in the car right now, driving to Seattle with Emily, rolling my eyes at my shirt that has holes in it. Classic. But please, I hope you can join us at 5 p.m. today, which will be Sunday, when this airs, and add your 2 cents. I appreciate all of you. I love you all, and I hope that you are able to recognize and witness and see the divine reflection and manifestation of Christ you are, and I hope that compels you today in a beautiful and empowering sense. Go in grace and peace, and we'll see you soon.